Welcome to the Living Large Theater Podcast with Gary Rodriguez, Billy Santiago, and producer Noe Ayala. Admission to the Living Large Theater requires only your sense of humor and thirst for knowledge as we explore community, entertainment, the arts, politics, and human nature. Time now for you to step inside the Living Large Theater.
And welcome to another edition of the Living Large Theater Podcast. I am Billy Santiago, along with my good friend of 35 years, Gary Rodriguez. And today, we're going to be talking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with the folks from the RGV Fight Club, Lee Zambrano and Leo Munoz. And with me right now, Gary, with some thoughts on what's going on in the world. What's up, Gary?
Hey, Bill. Thanks for being here. Also, thank you for listening to the Living Large Theater Podcast, where admission is free. All you need is a sense of humor and a thirst for knowledge. That's right. We get into all the weeds right here about our topics. We've talked with Steve Wise. We talked with Andy Harvey. He's a police chief in the city of FAR. We've talked with State Senator Chuy Hinojosa. We've also talked with Tim Smith, and we've talked with Fred Rodriguez, the Texas sportsman. We could talk to you if you have something interesting. Let us know. Our email address is Noe. What is our email address?
The Living Large Podcast.
livinglargepodcast at gmail.com. Yeah. So hopefully you have an interesting story, because if you do, we'd like to hear it and we'd like to talk to you. Right now, we're talking to the guys from the RGV Fight Club. But before we get into that, let's talk about back to school, man. We're just about there. Back to school is coming up around the Rio Grande Valley, Texas, the U.S. Everybody's going to be going back to school, but there's a thing that we have to keep in mind. Once you send your kids off to school, you kind of lose control. You're putting your kids in somebody else's hands. It's going to either be the teacher, the principal, or the cop at the school. And we kind of know how that can go. We hope everybody has a great year this year. We hope everybody is safe and sound. But we also realize, human nature being what it is, human nature will bring out the best and the worst. Worst by being bullying. You can get bullied at school. You can get bullied on your way home from school. You can get bullied on your way to school. And, you know, unfortunately, some kids actually get bullied once they get home. But we're going to talk about when your kids are on the way to school, on the way home from school, or at school. We don't want them subjected to any kind of bullying. Even though we don't want that, it's going to happen. And it's our job here today, we think, we hope, we pray that we might be able to lend some insight into you to helping your child either deal with bullying or avoid bullying altogether.
That's right, Gary. And, I got a daughter who's going to be a senior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little concerned. There's some things going on, some personality dynamics, because they're at that age now where they're trying to find themselves and stuff. And you got,
I'm still at that age.
Different groups of people, and so you got to choose your friends and stuff like that. It's sad that stuff like that's happening. And I always tell her, I says, you got to be above the fray.
Yeah. And sometimes kids at this age, they make friends. And, I think we all went through this, where we think those friends in high school are going to be our friends for the rest of our lives. And oftentimes they're not going to be your friend in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, So yeah, pick your friends wisely. Also lean on your parents. Hopefully if some kids are listening, lean on your parents. They've been through this. I try to, impart my experience with anybody that has time to listen to.
Were you bullied in school, Gary, growing up? You don't come across as somebody who's been bullied.
Not really. I mean, I played football a little bit. Then I realized everybody was getting 10 times bigger than me. So I left that and got into motorcycle riding, and then, joined the Army, but and in the Army there's bullies, and I guess what happened with me was my dad just, he wouldn't put up with it. We had a guy that stole my brother's BB gun, and my brother came home crying, and my dad just, kind of lit into him. And next thing I know, my brother goes over there with a baton, like a twirler's baton. I think it was my sister's, and essentially just knocked the shit out of that guy and got his bike back. It wasn't his BB gun. It was his bicycle. And, I guess different times. The other thing is this, as far as fights go, I remember how fights start. Fights start with a couple of crosswords or cross ideas or misunderstandings. And then a challenge is laid out. And then, the other guy either accepts the challenge or walks away. And then, So if the challenge is accepted, they kind of one pushes the other and then the other pushes back. And then if someone swings the fight is on. That's how it used to be. Now you got punks like this idiot up in New York City. He was walking around. He was just walking behind people and punching them in the back of the head until this MMA guy saw that, took him down, held him there for the cops to come and arrest him. And they find out this guy does that all the time, so hopefully Leo and Lee can sort of help us navigate through the human nature. I don't want to sit here and try to pretend that we're going to teach somebody jujitsu or any kind of real self-defense mechanisms. Hopefully we can leave you with some sort of suggestion on what to do, but it's the human nature aspect of it, and like I said, the old days of, squaring off and then punching and whoever wins. I think those are kind of out the window. And now you got cowards literally walking up behind you and just knocking the shit out of you or sticking you with something or, it's a sad state, but that's where we are.
That's right. So we're here with Leo and Lee from the RGV Fight Club. And guys, welcome to the Living Large Theater podcast. Thanks for coming in.
Let me set a parameter here if you don't mind, Bill.
Sure,
sorry to interrupt, but we have one mic for both these guys. So if you drop off or you don't hear anything, don't blame them, blame me. But we're going to try to get our best in here to get both these guys on this mic. And, we want to be entertaining. We want to be informative. So it's RGV Fight Club. They are here in the Rio Grande Valley. And let's talk with Lee first. Lee, thanks for joining us here today at the Living Large podcast. What do you think?
Thanks for having me, guys. I really enjoy the opportunity to get on here and talk to you guys about what we do every day.
Sure.
Any questions you guys have, just feel free to ask.
Yeah, let's talk about that trend going on in the big cities where people just kind of walk up behind you and sucker punch you. I mean, you're a fit guy. I can look at you right now and see you're fit, but even you are susceptible to, the sneak attack from behind. What would you do?
Before we get started, guys, we just had a legend in the sport, Leandro Lo. He passed away.
Oh,
this is kind of related to this stuff.
Yeah.
He got shot at a nightclub. And rest in peace, Leandro Lo. He's a great.
Oh, well, let's talk about that. Where was this?
So
hold on, back up. Who was Leandro Lo? Where's he from?
Leandro Lo is from Brazil.
Uh-huh.
He's an 8-time world champion. He was in his 30s. I believe he was 33, and he was just at a club.
What the hell?
And I guess somebody tried, from the article I read, don't quote me. He tried to take somebody's bottle, and or somebody tried to take his bottle. I'm sorry, and he caught the guy. He took him down. He held him down for a little bit, and after he let him up, the guy got up and shot him in the head.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, so
wow, what a tragedy. Okay, and let's use that. Could that have been avoidable? Probably, right?
I would have said in a situation like that, I would be more aware of where you're going. Obviously they probably didn't have good. They don't have people checking you at the door.
Yeah.
Or if it's a sketchy place to go to.
It was in Brazil, also. By the way,
it was in Brazil.
This is Leo. If anybody's wondering, Lee's brother. So yeah, it was actually in Brazil, which is a little, I think, sketchy in some parts. But Leandro Lo is a very big inspiration to both of our jiu-jitsu games.
Man, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he used to do a lot of guard passing, a lot of dynamic movements, and we'd watch him.
Did he compete in the UFC, or was he more of a teacher?
Strictly Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
IBJJF.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's terrible news there, man.
Yeah.
When did that happen? Just recently?
Happened, about 2 days ago, I believe.
Okay.
So it's pretty fresh right now. But I mean, it just kind of goes back into what you were talking about, where the guy is randomly going up to people and hitting them. I mean, this generation's a little weird sometimes as far as the things that are acceptable or not acceptable. Back in the day, they say when I was a little younger, I was a little more old school, right? And you did things the right way. Like if you were fight somebody,
yeah,
hey, I'm having an issue with you, and you fight the person, right?
Yeah, that's how it was back then, but nowadays it's crazy.
And I feel like Brazilian jiu-jitsu is a great way. It's a good in between, man, because it kind of brings back the old school, because there's no cheating in jiu-jitsu. As far as like you want to get better, you have to put time on the mats.
Yeah. Well, I went to your school one day, and thank you for having me there. And I saw that everybody in there, A, is dedicated. B is relatively fit or getting fit, because it was almost like a little sweat box in there. And you could tell that everybody in there was trying to learn. And I think that's what it takes, is trying to learn what you need to do to deal with whatever situation comes around and impacts you or your family or your friends or whoever you're with.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a great way to get in shape. It's a great thing for your self-confidence. And you were talking about, you were mentioning bullying earlier and going back to school. A lot of the kids that we have, younger kids, they're there because of bullying.
Mm-hmm.
Either they've been bullied or the parents don't want them to get bullied. And I have to
sort of proactive approach right there.
Proactive, yeah. If you, like, for example, my brother, when I came back from the military, he was about 12 or 13, and I started training him jiu-jitsu and making him run with me and work out. And by the time he got to high school,
I really didn't get bullied, honestly, at all. I mean, maybe a little bit, but once they realized I practiced wrestling and jiu-jitsu and self-defense,
hands off.
Yeah, I didn't really have too much trouble in high school.
But
the other thing is,
some people will push you to see what you'll do.
Yeah, but I'm very calm, I think, especially because of jiu-jitsu. It's helped to keep me calm in very stressful situations because you have to.
Well, every single day we're simulating murder.
Mm-hmm.
Simulated murder presenting jiu-jitsu.
But we tap out.
Yeah.
So
right before.
Yeah. So you don't have to. You can put yourself in those situations, and you can be comfortable when they actually do arise, because you do it every single day. It becomes automatic.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it becomes a response to defend yourself or defend somebody that you're with.
Yeah, I like to explain it like kind of like how the police officers are always practicing their shooting, because when a crime arises and they need to stop somebody, there's just instinct.
It's got to be automatic.
Yeah, and it's just like us. We practice fighting, so if we were ever to be in an instance where we're having to defend ourselves or others, it'd be instinctual more than like thinking about what I have to do.
Yeah.
Is a person going to get away? You're just going off of instinct. Obviously, you're trying to think about what you're doing at the same time, making sure you're making the right decisions.
Yeah, and always be proactive. Like I try not to put myself in situations where I have to use it, and I try to go with my gut. And obviously, if somebody has a gun, I'm not gonna try to fight them if they have a gun, because I'd rather be alive and
absolutely
make my money, right? Because there's certain situations. Yeah, there's certain situations where it's not worth it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you follow your instincts and you can defend yourself. And 9 times out of 10, someone's gonna, they're having a bad day, or they're just whatever, and maybe they're just bullies themselves. And sometimes bullies were bullied.
Sure.
So it goes on and on. So
I tell my son, you never know what frame of mind somebody's in, because when you're driving on the road, there's a lot of road rage out there. And I tell him, well, you don't know if this guy just broke up with his girlfriend, or if she just got fired, or if she just had an argument with her parents. And people are out there, they're driving 3,000-pound battering rams, and I tell them, always keep in perspective that you don't know what the other person has been going through in their day up to that point, and just keep that in mind. Lee, you were in the military. Thank you so much for your service. Where'd you serve?
I was stationed in Japan.
And is that where you were exposed to overseas martial arts?
Yes. So when I went to Sasebo, Japan, and being out there, it's a funny story. I was on the ship, and this dude is a hothead. I don't know. He was mad or something that day, and he kind of bumped me. And I told him, hey, man, you just bumped me, like we're in close quarters, right? And he pushes me. So my instincts, as soon as he pushes me, he kind of rushes me, and I grabbed his head and I squeezed as tight as I could. And I just squeezed it. And I was like, I'm not going to let this guy go, And I guess I almost choked him out. I put him in a guillotine without knowing what a guillotine was. And then, like, right afterwards, he was like, you almost had me, man. Who taught you that? Who taught you that move? And I told him, what are you talking about?
That was instinct.
Yeah. And then he goes, what? You don't know what you just did? And then he was pissed, I guess, because he trained. so he's like, how did you catch me in this move? And I actually train, and you have no idea what you're doing. It's just natural instinct. You grab somebody.
Yeah.
So then afterwards, that guy, his name is Perry. He's a Hawaiian guy, a white guy from Hawaii. And we became really good friends. And he took me to this dojo that was over there.
Wow.
It was off base. It was 8 stories, and each floor had a different martial art master. So if you think about like a Bruce Lee movie where he has to climb up with all the so every level was like a judo master, a karate, a taekwondo, and you had to be very respectful. We used to pay 10 yen, which was, I believe, $1, to enter, and you have to bow when you see people. And we went to, like, I think the 6th floor or the 5th floor, and that's where the MMA guys were, and that's where the Japanese jiu-jitsu guys were, which is a little different than Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I used to get my butt kicked every day because they taught me a handful of moves, and then they said, "All right, let's do it."
Oh wow, just like that.
Yes, like that.
Thrown in the fire.
They taught me an arm bar. I guess they really wanted guys that wanted to train, but they weren't really instructors. So Perry had some wrestling background, and he taught me first moves. He taught me arm bar, guillotine, and he taught me those are 2 ones, and a straight ankle lock, which is a leg lock. But it was an illegal one. It's where you have to, like, kind of reap the leg. And we'll talk about that later. So I had, like, a leg lock, an arm bar, and a guillotine. And it was all no gi, just regular clothing.
Oh,
in
wow.
Jiu-jitsu, we train traditional.
Just like you're on the street.
Gi and no gi.
Yeah.
But in Japan, a long time ago, people would walk around with, like, outfits that looked like gis. They had their attire.
Sure.
So that's where the kimonos, right? So
Yeah.
it kind of stems from that,
Wow.
So that's why that was for them, it was like something that made sense,
Yeah.
But nowadays is no gi.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Living Large Theater podcast. We're talking with the gentleman from RGV Fight Club, Lee Zambrano, Leo Munoz. Bill?
Hey, Lee, when you got back from the military, how long was it before you said, you know what, I want to open up a jiu-jitsu studio? How did that come about?
I mean, everybody dreams of having a gym. Every white belt that ever steps on the mats, has a little fantasy one day. They go, "Oh man, I want to have a gym." You're not supposed. I mean, technically, you're supposed to wait till you become a black belt. In some cases, a few people are trying to rush the gun and
want to show proper technique.
There's but in reality, like, it takes 10 years at least minimum to receive a black belt. So, you would be doing people a disservice sometimes if you try to rush that. But of course, I wanted to have a gym. And then I kind of forgot about it. Like, I flirted with the idea, but then, I just enjoy doing it. So even if I didn't, I wanted to just train.
Yeah.
When he came back, I'm his brother. I'm 12, 13 years old on a ranch over there in Rio Grande City, or in La Victoria, is where we're from. And there's nothing to do out there. So when he came back and he's like, check out this arm bar, check out this guillotine and this straight ankle lock. And I'm like, what is this? This is amazing. And he's like, let me show you.
There you go.
And when he came back, that was the first thing he was like, hey, we weren't really thinking about school. We were just thinking on how much fun we were having doing this martial art. And we were just like having fun, just beating each other up.
Shout out to Raymond Martinez, one of my old friends from high school.
He would come and train with us.
Hey, coming over to the ranch, man. We'll show you some moves.
He's a big boy, right? He's a big guy, but he can move, man. He would watch Japanese, he would watch martial art flicks, right? So one time we're walking, he starts throwing these kicks, and I'm like, man, like Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, wow. Kung Fu
Panda. He's a big guy. I love Raymond. So I go,
man.
let me show you this move. And he goes, I've seen it before. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So we started practicing.
Mom and Dad are listening right now. What are you going to tell them? Because Tommy's going to, let's say, Fossum Middle School, 8th grade, starting in just a week or two. What are you going to tell them to have him at least, Tommy, a little bit ready to avoid bullying or get himself out of a bullying situation?
First and foremost, obviously train. We offer a free week trial, so they can bring their kids and they can come check it out. But above all, we always tell our kids, tell an adult, talk to somebody, let somebody know that you're being bullied. You tell your teacher, you tell your parents, and if the bully continues to bully you, then and then puts their hands on you, then you can go ahead and defend yourself.
There you go.
Because you've already told the adults, you told people, and the people that are in action, authority, need to take action to protect you. And if things are not being done, there's only so much you can do. You're not going to just get beat up.
Right.
So, and that's when jiu-jitsu comes in. You're not using it maliciously. And we tell our students to don't become the bully.
Don't look for a fight, hang back and, talk to somebody. And we've actually had some of our kids in our gym actually gone through some bullying, and they come and talk to us. We tell the parents tell the school. And we've had instances where the kid actually ends up getting physically bullied, and they were like defending themselves, and they ended up being like let off the hook with because they weren't doing anything wrong.
Right. They were defending themselves.
Yeah. So it had gotten to that point where it got physical, and then the kid who had been escalating the situation ended up getting in trouble, and the other kid stayed out of trouble.
There you go. That's a good development. Say Billy's daughter, senior at high school, if she went to RGV Fight Club this week for a first lesson, how do you start them off?
I mean, we always get them in there, and we have to kind of check their athleticism and what they can and what they can't do.
You do an
And then,
evaluation.
yeah, like an evaluation, and we have them perform some of the movements.
Mhm.
And then if they're struggling with it, some people pick up a little faster, some a little slower, but we can kind of gauge it right away, Leo and myself.
Sure.
I think a
Easy.
good way for kids who aren't maybe in our school and they're at home and they're going to school and they're just listening to the podcast maybe. One thing that I can recommend is them to work out a little bit, try to stay in shape. A lot of this generation is on their phones or on their games, and they're not outside being active like how
Mhm.
we used to be when we were younger.
I remember those days.
I
Now
know, right?
It's a Pop-Tart generation these days.
Hey,
Pop-Tart Hot
we
Pockets.
grew up on a ranch, man. So like my dad, I remember when I was a kid, I walked outside. He goes, "Hey, Mijo, guess what?" I'm like, "What? We're gonna make a fence today. We're gonna build a fence."
Oh, cool.
So boom, I'm over there with the
Shoveling.
hole, the poseta,
Yeah.
making holes and like sweating
There you go.
and helping him carry stuff. And
There you
nailing
go.
things. So like, I mean, not to talk smack, but I have some friends that are in their 30s. They don't know how to use a power tool.
That's
They don't know how
the
to
whole
use it.
generation. man.
They don't know how to change a tire. They
That's
don't know,
the whole
Dude,
generation right
we're
now.
like carpenters, plumbers, electricians.
Isn't that
We
something?
can do a little bit of everything, but I feel like that's a criteria to be like just a regular guy. I think that's how I grew up.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people right now that couldn't even start a lawnmower. I mean, it's
Work on
It took my
cars,
son
man.
forever to help me cut the grass. And he's 23 years old now. He's out there cutting it down.
In our generation, I remember my grandfather's 98 years old. He's still alive. He's a World War II veteran.
Wow.
He's about to be 99
He's
this year,
sharp. You talk to him,
September.
he can have a full conversation with you. Completely cognition's great.
nice.
And he was always real simple. But I remember as a kid, I remember seeing him help my dad build the house that my parents lived in.
Oh, wow.
So there was like I helped dig the hole,
Yeah.
and then they laid this foundation, and next he was on the roof nailing and building stuff. So that's the generation. That's what I grew up. I grew up looking up to my grandfather.
Yeah.
So it's
The new generation could learn a lot from the older generations. And sometimes I think that the American culture just doesn't put much emphasis on the elderly as the Asians do. And I think it's something that we sort of take a loss on because we're not bothering to listen to anybody's experiences or, things that insight that they have that they could use to help us have a better life. We're talking with Zambrano, Leo Munoz there with the RGV Fight Club. We're talking about back to school and the threat of bullying. Gary Rodriguez, Billy Santiago. This is the Living Large Theater podcast. Want to keep in mind that we will be broadcasting from South Padre Island on August the 29th. We will be at Bar Louie in the Courtyard by Marriott. I tell you what, Barry Patel, Alina Rivera, they have done such a great job with that property. Probably one of the premier, if not the premier properties on South Padre Island right now. If you're in the area that day, stop by. We'd like to see you. It's at the Courtyard by Marriott, South Padre Island. It's brand new. It's on the beach side. And we will be broadcasting from Bar Louie's right there at the Courtyard by Marriott. Our broadcast day is Monday, August the 29th.
You guys compete?
Yeah, we just actually got back from a competition recently. We were in Austin, Texas, in Round Rock. We were competing in IBJJF, International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu
Okay.
Federation, one of the biggest tournaments that you can go to in our sport. And I feel like it's definitely growing a lot more. I feel like it might be mainstream in the next couple of years. So we're looking forward to that. And we are noticing the popularity pick up. Back in the day when we first started, nobody wanted to train with us. We would try to convince people to come and train with us.
Free. We'll do it free.
What turned it around for you guys? I mean, that's interesting. You start something just for the love of it, and you hope that people will come out and get taught how to do jujitsu.
So I think people just eventually saw what we saw because we would watch the early UFCs with Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture, and we were like, man, how come people don't like this? This is so cool.
So you think MMA had a big influence on a lot of people?
The UFCs, I think, is like the number one reason why. And now we have people like Gordon Ryan, and they're doing kind of like the Muhammad Ali effect, where they talk a lot of smack and they build up all they're seeing like the WWE.
Yeah,
side,
more like an entertainment.
like an entertainment, because the fighting, or like the Mayweather, they want to build up the fight, the hype.
Sure,
want some drama in there.
Yeah, so they want to see a little bit of that. The people want to tune in. They want to follow the story. They want to follow the fighters, and I think and that's a big reason why it's going to keep growing. Plus, it's fun once people do it. It's addicting.
Yeah, I remember the story of Roger Huerta. He was an MMA guy. He was in downtown Austin, and some linebacker for the UT Longhorns just cold cocked this girl right there on 6th Street. Just
He beat him up.
Yeah, and then this guy's huge, and Roger's pretty small. And there's a video out there on TMZ, and they get into it. You don't actually see much of the fight, but after it's over, all you see is the linebacker on the ground, just beat to a pulp, bleeding, and there's no Roger.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I think the RGV Fight Club is a place that you can not only learn how to fight, but you can definitely learn how to defend yourself.
And any opportunity for you guys to go MMA?
Well, right now I'm really focusing on jiu-jitsu, so I'm gonna be doing IBJJF Worlds, which is the Worlds is like the big tournament of all of the IBJJFs.
Okay.
It's gonna be in Vegas on September the 1st. So I've been at a competition for about 2 years. I recently did a little just a competition of the Austin one. I ended up getting third.
Attaboy, congratulations.
Thanks, but I had to.
It's a big deal.
I was working 2 jobs, like 12, 13-hour days.
Yeah. So is this all you do right now?
Now this is all
good
I do.
for you.
There you go. So it's growing. It's
You've
good for
earned
you.
that, man. You have earned that. Awesome.
Yeah, but I feel like that was a good little tune-up just to see what I needed, and now I'm getting ready for it. But who knows in the future? I mean, maybe I'll flirt with some MMA. It's always going to be fun.
How old are you now, Lee? How old are you now?
I'm 36, but I'm a little bit of a late bloomer, man. So I feel like
is that young in MMA years?
Yeah, it's old actually. But I mean, if I'm not gonna, I'll probably just do a couple local ones if I do decide to do it.
But he still fights like in his 20s.
There you go.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like I was a little bit of a late bloomer, so I feel like I'm in my 20s still.
Yeah. Well, you still look very active. You still look very healthy. You still look very fit and able to defend yourself. It's RGV Fight Club, Lee Zambrano, Leo Munoz. Let's get people into your door. Where are you?
We're on Jackson and Trenton. It's 4435 South Jackson Road,
Edinburgh, Texas.
Texas. Yeah. So
kind of hard to find because
well, I like it.
I had a hard time finding
it. We just put up a huge sign.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, humongous. Like it's a 4-foot, light up sign. So it's going to be a lot easier to find.
You have an email address or a phone number?
RGVFightClub@gmail.com.
Okay, RGV Fight Club.
And you have a website too, right?
RGVFightClub.com.
There you go. That's it, man. Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Hey.
What can we say right now that might get mom and dad to take their child over there just to talk to you? I mean, no obligation, no pressure.
We have a free week trial, so if they want to try it out, and if they feel like their kid can do something outside of school, like I know a lot of parents came for the summer to try something new with their kids, and I feel like they really left satisfied because a lot of parents stayed and kept coming back, and the growth that they saw in their kids, then that was just enough for them to want to stick around for a while.
Let me tell you a quick little story, man. We had one kid that was dealing with depression, and the parents were taking him to a counselor, and he was really depressed, to the point where he was, I mean, I don't want to get too personal, but he was really, really depressed. And after about 2 weeks of training, he goes to the counselor, and the counselor tells the parents that what are you doing with this kid?
He doesn't want to go to therapy anymore.
No, he doesn't want to. He doesn't need to come here anymore.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know what you've been doing with this kid, but he doesn't need counseling anymore.
Awesome.
And the parent sent me a text, and I was like, wow, like
that's a feel good story right there.
And what it is that you have something that you identify with.
What do you think it was in particular? Was he lacking confidence, or was he?
So I work with him personally. Like we train him both together, but I do private classes with him too because his mom wants him to get better faster. But I feel like his confidence was actually one of the biggest things. His confidence boost. He was willing to go out and like talk to people more, to say things. He's a very quiet kid.
Sure.
But not a pushover by any means. But I feel like he was missing some confidence. And once he got that confidence, I feel like he's just blooming now.
There you go. That's a very persuasive story
the confidence,
right there.
It's the social skills. It's everything, man. I mean, you get to get a little bit of that in jiu-jitsu. You get to community. You feel like you're a part of something.
Yeah.
You could easily become a part of a gang or something bad.
Yeah.
And then that's going to be negative. Obviously, the old saying is, tell me who you hang out with and I'll tell you who you are. They say that in Spanish too.
Yeah.
Dime con quien te juntas.
That's right. It tells you
So
everything right there.
There's a lot of truth to that, man.
Hey,
So
we
you
got
hang out
2
with
minutes
positive people.
left. Let's close it out right now. We're going to have Leo Munoz and Lee Zambrano. wrap it up for us. Tell us once again where you are, how we can get a hold of you, and then we'll just do a quick little exit right there. And thank you for your service again, and thank you both for being here very much. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, so just like I said, rgvfightclub.com. We're on Instagram, rgvfcbjj. It's abbreviated. You can Google us. Google us is like the #1 way you can find us. Yeah, all our information is on there. Look for us.
We have a 5-star rating on our Google. If you look, you can also see the comments from the actual parents themselves talking about how we teach, and they don't leave 1-2 words. They leave sentences, paragraphs.
Awesome.
We
Congratulations.
Do, 3 years old all the way to any age group. We have older guys there in their 60s. We have younger guys, and we always try to give everybody we modify it for them, and we give them what they want, what they're looking for.
Awesome. These are the guys from the RGV Fight Club, Lee Zambrano, Leo Munoz. This is the Living Large Theater podcast. Can one of you get me in a headlock? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gary.